So welcome everyone, great that you're here, starting right from the bed, so to speak, with a light meditation and light guided meditation using lesson 70, a part of it. Now we will try again to reach the light in you, which is where your salvation is. So take a deep breath, sit back. This is your time. This is your chance to enter deeply in salvation. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light, and it is in them you have been looking for it. It is not there. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light. But remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you really wanted. Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there. When you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation, try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. If it helps you, think of me holding your hand and leading you. And I assure you that this will be no idle fantasy. Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there, when you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation. Try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. If it helps you, think of me holding your hand and leading you, and I assure you that this will be no idle fantasy. Thank you so much for joining today in the light, guided light meditation. And it's a great way to start with the meditation, because in fact that is the action That is what you do, that's the practice. There's a possibility to go beyond the clouds of denial, whether that's concern, whether that's thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, or thinking about what am I supposed to do, or any of the concerns that you can walk around with, whether it's in the morning, whether it's during the day, or whenever that occurs. So you have opportunities to intensify, in fact, your presence, to intensify the moment where you are aware that you have a choice, where you decide, no, wait a minute, I have to come to my peace first here. I'm not going to do anything before I allow that to occur. And that's great practice, because when your inspiration comes from this, say, peace of mind, and then what happens is that extends, that literally you're open to receive. And you're open to receive something that is actually constructive, that is actually helping you, and not some kind of idea that you walk up against and think, oh yeah, let's do this. Like, basically, that is a very fundamental part of the training, to learn to return to your peace all the time, and recognizing that what comes from love is love itself, and otherwise it's fear. So fear would be then that you think you need to protect something, or that you need to be careful that you're not going to miss out on something, or whatever the impulse is. That has in human experience a great power, because it has to do with survival. It has to do with, if I don't do that, then something happens. While peace only says, everything is all right, just relax, wait a moment, be still, listen, come to your senses, beyond your senses even, so come to your peace. So that's related to the meditation that we do. Looking for salvation where it actually can be found is really effective. Looking for salvation where it isn't is where you're really good at as an ego mind, as a human mind, as a no man's mind, as an old man's mind, and looking for salvation where it cannot be found is basically always related to images and ideas that need a lot of noise and a lot of basically it's a temptation. It's like, don't miss out on this, it's available now, go get it, it's yours. Like, no, I don't want it, I don't need it, I don't need an image to satisfy me, I don't need anything. So today, with the say the final episode of the Morning Miracle, where we take a really good look at the manual for teachers, we have one part still available to look at, and that is this. It's like, are changes required in the lives of the teachers of God? And I love that, because we all have to deal with that. Well, did our changes take place when you started to actually do this instead of just entertaining the ideas? When you really started doing the lessons? When you really started start to recognize that you find yourself on a transformational journey where everything is going to be different, and basically what you have learned as a human being is now going to be turned 180 degrees upside down, and what you thought was useful is not useful anymore. And of course you go through changes, because accepting this new journey, in fact, finding yourself on a new journey is already a big change in the way that you see yourself. First, it might be just entertaining the idea, like, yeah, this cannot be it. I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, it will be different. And I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. That is basically always the start. Or it has a sudden start where you have an experience that is not of this world, and suddenly you're shaken up, and whoom, there you are, having an experience that has basically no rationale in this world. You cannot explain it to anyone. And so that shakes up everything. Well, what does that shake up basically always first? Exactly, the relationships that you're in. The relationships that you're in, whether that's an intimate relationship with someone or in a family setup or who knows who, that is being shaken in your experience of yourself, because you discover that something is occurring and you're not sure what is helpful and what isn't in that new in this new episode or journey that started in your life. Now so speaking from my own experience, in the first years of my shake-up that I experienced, it was a sudden shake-up. So what happened? My relationship was like, I did not recognize myself as the one that was in the relationship, or as a partner, or as a father figure in a family. I could not relate to it. It was like that is some kind of way that's gone. I don't know how to relate anymore. I don't know how to do this. And that was quite disturbing, you could say. And so it needs to settle, you can say. It needs to integrate in your experience. Not that you have to keep doing what you're doing, and you certainly can allow changes. That's all good and well if they naturally occur, and if that is not directed towards an ego goal, then it's probably going to be helpful. Now here's a very specific aspect that I like to bring under your attention, and that is coming from chapter 18. And that is exactly about this relationship change that you might find very attractive to step into because you're new and your partner seems to be in a whole different space altogether. Now what? You dictate yourself, or you present yourself with temptations or with so-called solution, salvation, in the place where it cannot be found, related to an image of someone that seems to be the answer to all your problems. And you step into that or not. So in chapter 18, I made a little composition of it, and a visual composition too, just to bring this idea in about what I'm sharing about. So this is so deeply related to my first years, you could say, of my awakening, that I think it's absolutely wonderful to be aware of it, or to know that this is what is actually going on. How beautiful. Substitute is to accept instead. If you would but consider exactly what this entails, you would perceive at once how much at variance this is with the goal the Holy Spirit has given you and would accomplish for you. To substitute is to choose between, renouncing one in favor of the other. For this special purpose, one is judged more valuable and the other is replaced by him. The relationship in which the substitution occurred is thus fragmented and its purpose split accordingly. To fragment is to exclude, And substitution is the strongest defense the ego has for separation. The Holy Spirit never substitutes. Where the ego perceives one person as a replacement for another, the Holy Spirit sees them joined and indivisible. He does not judge between them, knowing they are one. Being united, they are one because they are the same. Substitution is clearly a process in which they are perceived as different. One would unite, the other separate. Nothing can come between what God has joined and what the Holy Spirit sees as one, but everything seems to come between the fragmented relationships the ego sponsors to destroy. The one emotion in which substitution is impossible is love. But fear involves substitution by definition, for it is love's replacement. Fear is both a fragmented and fragmenting emotion. It seems to take many forms, and each seems to require a different form of acting out for satisfaction. While this appears to introduce quite variable behavior, a far more serious effect lies in the fragmented perception from which the behavior stems. No one is seen complete. The body is emphasized, with special emphasis on certain parts, and used as the standard for comparison. For either acceptance or rejection of suitability for acting out a special form of fear. So yeah, the French translation is not cooked yet, it's not ready yet to go, I guess. So that's why it wasn't available. It's a new video. So here you saw like a description, and I hope that this is helpful. Like, you have to listen to it a couple of times, I guess, or study it a little bit, because it's really holding a message. And whether you relate that to relationships or to something else, it doesn't matter. In fact, it is like you have an idea what needs to change, and that's where you actually look for your own plan for salvation. You think that that's going to be the solution, no matter how it looks. And that doesn't seem to work like that at all, because there is a plan of salvation. So now you make another plan, and you think that that might work and give you something that otherwise you would miss in God's plan for salvation. Now here, see, the thing with the meditation, the light meditation that we did, looking for salvation where it can be found, is in this experience. In this moment, in this experience, experiencing light, and the redirection of your mind. Instead of placing it outward, looking for salvation there, you look for salvation within you. Seek first the kingdom, and everything else will be added onto it. As an experience, like you ask for an experience, that is going to set, reset your way that you go. So really important. Because in your say first years, or in your introduction into the changes as a teacher of God, like if you decided to be one, it is like you have adaptations that you do. Besides substitutions that you might do, you also have like adaptations. You're going to change your behavior, for instance, thinking that that does something. You're going to behave in a certain way, use certain words, or do all these things, and you think that that is part of it too. While the behavior change is easy, but it doesn't last. So it's like to allow a fundamental change within you is in fact to allow the atonement to take place, the undoing of what you think you are, instead of peripheral things that seem so important because that was your world. You know what I'm saying? It's like that your human world was filled with superficialities. And now entering into a deeper layer of yourself where the miracle impulses are, where you actually allow yourself to cry out to God, like, I need help here. I want this. I want to return home, in fact, or I want to give in to the scream within me that asks to go home. I want to bring that to the surface. I'm allowing that to come up into my consciousness. So that's huge change. But like I said, because your life as a human being is filled with superficialities, with distractions, with temptations, with sin, time, personal goals, personal interests, personal this, personal that, and privacy of thought, even like a privacy of thought, thinking that you have private thoughts and thinking that your neighbor should know about it. Because when you talk to your neighbor, you say this, but when you're home in your private sector, you talk about someone else totally different. Now, all this has to do with, you can say, congruency, or that it's integrated. What you think, what you do, and what you say has to become one thing in order for you to be free of conflict within you. And to be free without conflict, free of conflict, is like the necessary part in order to receive, to hear the voice for God. So you can say, like, well, see, that path is taking quite a while in order to calm your mind down, to actually come to the place where you start to hear the voice for God speaking to you. Because your mind, as a human being, your mind is so occupied with trivial stuff, and that it cannot hear anything else. It has its own ideas, like I said, all this. And that needs to go first, or that needs to quiet down. That's why the training of A Course in Miracles is really to come to peace of mind, to come to the still place within yourself, to recognize that's where I have to return. I can release my thoughts to return back into my salvation and allow that to be, say, a couple of times a day, or at least in the morning, where I have my meditation and my moment to reset my direction, my redirection of the mind. So that's all great stuff. Now, the Manual for Teachers will go through it with section 10 of the Manual for Teachers, and this is exactly about are changes required in the lives of teachers of God. Changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. This may or may not involve changes in the external situation, but the changes need to occur in the minds of God. That's the redirection of the mind, you can say. The changes are required in the minds of God's teachers. Everything can stay the same to a certain extent. Like there may or may not be a change in the external situation, but yeah, The mind is where it takes place. Remember that no one is where he is by accident. And this is like exactly the situation that you find yourself in right now, at this point in time, exactly now, is no coincidence. It is literally, it is part of God's plan. So remember that no one is where he is by accident, and chance plays no part in God's plan. It is most unlikely that changes in his attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. It would be most unlikely that changes in his attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God. So that's a double negative. So it's like, it is most unlikely that it would not happen. In other words, there will be changes. So Jesus talks a lot in double negative, because that opens instead of defines. And that's what you discover. Like, it is most unlikely that changes in his attitudes would not be the first step in the newly made teacher of God's training. There is, however, no set pattern, since training is always highly individualized. Yeah, we have no question about that. It's so individual. The whole undoing, the whole transformational path is so individualized. There are those who are called upon to change their life situation almost immediately, but these are generally special cases. By far, the majority are given a slowly evolving training program in which as many previous mistakes as possible are corrected. Relationships in particular must be properly perceived. Well, there you have it. And all dark cornerstones of unforgiveness removed. And they will be. Don't worry. You don't have to do that yourself. Like, that is taken care of. That will come to the service. Dark cornerstones of unforgiveness. Otherwise, the old thought system still has a basis to return. As the teacher of God advances in his training, he learns one lesson with increasing thoroughness. He does not make his own decisions. He asks his teacher for his answer, and it is this he follows as his guide for action. Well, let's stop here. So that is the essential part in the training. Like, you're not going to decide what is helpful to you, what you're going to do in order to establish this within your own life situation, within your own mind. Like, it's not of your concern. That's why we come back to give it to Spirit and wait for the answer to come to you. There will be an answer. If you give it away, there will be an answer. If that answer is that the whole problem as you have perceived it is dissolved, great. If it requires action on your part, you will be shown. Very simple. But see, this is an important part. Like, there are more things coming up. It's really interesting because you deal with this every day. So that's how actual it is. Like, no, not your own plan. No, you don't know what's the best for you. No, you have no idea where to go, what to say, and to whom, and what would be helpful for everyone involved in the situation or in the new development that you see coming up. And all this, or in your relationships as they appear to be now. So really, really beautiful. And we continue because there's more. I recognize now. Like, oh yeah, wait a minute, here's more. This becomes easier and easier as the teacher of God learns to give up his own judgment. Oh yeah, judgment. The giving up of judgment, the obvious prerequisite for hearing God's voice, is usually a fairly slow process. Not because it is difficult, but because it is apt to be perceived as personally insulting. How is that possible? You cannot judge, but you think you can judge, and you think your judgment is important because that literally differentiated you from everyone else. Well, here we go. The world's training is directed toward achieving a goal in direct opposition to that of our curriculum. The world trains for reliance on one's judgment as the criterion for maturity and strength. Our curriculum trains for the relinquishment of judgment as the necessary condition of salvation. See how great that is? I love it. So you can give up judgment. See, that's not how it goes, does it? It's like your perception is literally connected to judgment. You literally see what you judge. And you have an idea about it. You have an idea about what you see. So that's something else to tackle, isn't it? We do the lessons, absolutely. And your mind is generating judgments. Well, who is your mind? Like, is there a will behind your mind? Is there one who says, okay, well, I'll listen to this for a moment? Like, are you entertaining your judgments? Oh yeah, it is totally part of your human sense of self. Your judgment is how you establish yourself and keep yourself in the middle of the road, or keep yourself comfortable to a certain degree, or feel good about yourself. So it's completely rooted into your human experience, completely. Like, it's the fundamental basis of your human identity. Judgment is like essential in your human life. Now here we come as teachers of God, allowing a relinquishment of the judgment. And that makes you look different also in a social relationship. And that if you would express something to humans, and they would have an idea about it, because what you say might be controversial in their ears. Now they have a judgment about that, about you, or however. It's like that. Now here you stay out of it as a teacher of God. You stay out of the judgment just because you recognize that is not giving me anything. My judgment is based on a false premise that I'm an individual living on planet Earth, trying to survive, trying not to die, basically, and accepting my place in the human status of nothingness. And it's like, and one thing, of course, and this is like wisdom in the human terms. The wisdom is having a great judgment about things. If your judgment is controversial and really bringing in some new stuff, then you're interesting to listen to. And if you don't judge, if you don't bring in a controversial idea in terms of comparison or analysis of what is going on in the world, then what do you have to say? It's like that changes completely. What is it that what do I need to say when I don't judge? Like, literally, there's nothing to say, basically. There's nothing to say. There's nothing left to talk about, because basically all conversations are related to a judgment. So it becomes quiet, and to a certain extent not interesting for a human being, because you don't show leadership, or you don't show self-respect if you don't have a good judgment. See how that is? Now here is exactly like where something happens for you, because now you have to adjust, or to get adjusted to the new way of being present. Letting go of judgment, relinquishment of judgment, not feeding it, not responding to it, not fighting over it, not discussing it, not doing any of these things. In fact, you release, allow that to be relinquished. And that takes a moment before that settles within you, that you say there has to be, you can say here something happens because there has to be an alternative within you that is actually confirming that you're doing the right thing. Otherwise it just looks like you're not allowed to judge anymore, you're not allowed to tell anyone about what you think is so great and so wonderful and all this stuff. But you have to, in fact, release that. So there has to be a different experience coming up for you, and this is exactly what will happen if you relinquish, if you allow this relinquishment to take place. Suddenly there's more space in your mind for a good experience, for a deep experience of connectedness and a deep quiet that, despite you not participating in this social activity of judgment and pointing fingers, you stay in your peace. Or you lose the interest in social gatherings that you normally would participate in. So this is all natural development. Like I said, the thing that opens up is that you will have more time to go within and let your mind be redirected to the light within instead of anything else. And that becomes, your salvation. You recognize, wow, I can stay in this glow of light, in this beautiful atmosphere of healing and beauty and recognition. I don't have to get out of that. I don't need to show anyone about my great judgments about everything. So that's really different. I think there's a fundamental difference with previously being a human being. So like it says, this is a process that takes place slowly. You get used to that. For most of us, it goes like a slow change in that. You see that changes over the years, you could say. And so that's how that goes. That's perfectly all right, whether that goes fast or not. But you see, the one that has trouble with this is you. Because in the social situations where you start to judge, for instance, you literally hear yourself say things, because it's like Spirit is right with you in the moment. Now here I come with my great story. Finally, I have something to say in this social setup, and I start talking, and I discover, oh my God, I'm such a liar when I say this. I cannot really do that anymore. I feel the total fake of that. And when I start to say that in the social activity, then it stops really. It's like no one is interested in pooping the party, so to speak. So that's the great thing with being a teacher of God, or recognizing that you are one and that you're in the process of relinquishment. So this is an essential part that we have taken a look at, that I thought, like, I don't want to skip this, because it's lovely to see that you're in this process, recognizing the changes that are taking place, and the possibility to stay in a new setup, even with your relationships. You don't need to find yourself a new setup. Like, all this is literally given to you. You only have to follow direction. You only have to learn to listen. and to accept what is given to you as an instruction for your day. That is the thing. Like, the one thing changes is that's the redirection of your mind from a horizontal, say, relationship to a vertical, holy relationship with God, with your brother, recognizing that your goal is not separate from your brother. That becomes a thing. But basically, it is your holy relationship with God. Redirection, receiving guidance in every step along the way. You don't have to make the changes. The changes that are occurring is you allowing a redirection of your mind. And I speak from deep experience. Like, these can be really painful episodes where you go through, where you actually decided an ego goal to achieve, to step into a new relationship or to separate yourself off, and seeing that is an incredible disturbance, and with a lot of effect, in fact. And so that is just not what is asked of you. So you're going to have your own experience, but I'm just saying, you can prevent yourself all kinds of considerations, difficulties, and all this by listening, by accepting guidance, by setting aside your great judgment, by setting aside your great wonderful ideas to make your life new or something, to have this dream of salvation, that you see images presented to you that you think like, yeah, these are exactly the ingredients that I need in my new spiritual life. Well, I can tell you, it is not what it looks like. It certainly is not what it looks like. So stay right here. Don't move an inch. Listen. Go within. Listen. Follow the guidance that comes from within. Forget about any of these images that seems to be so appealing, because they are not what they appear to be. Right. Okay, so wonderful. Thank you so much. So this was the Morning Miracle, Teacher of God, the Manual for Teacher. We went through 8 chapters of the Teacher's Manual. There's more, of course. There are many more. So we had some magical thoughts that are relinquished. We looked at reincarnation. We had to look at trust again and some characteristics of God's teachers. All of this we have taken a look at, and now we leave this for a moment for what it is and let it mature within us, and going for that. So thank you so much for your attention, for your participation in this series, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you so much.